The oxygen mask dangled uselessly above Sarah Chen's head as the private jet plummeted through turbulent clouds. Her vision blurred, her chest tightened, and in those terrifying seconds, she realized that all her billions couldn't buy her another breath. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the weathered face of a stranger, her driver, leaning close, his calloused hands steady on her shoulders, making a choice that would change both their lives forever. Marcus Reed had driven for exactly 47 different people in his 3 years with Elite Transportation Services. He'd ferried tech moguls, celebrities, and politicians across Los Angeles, maintaining the professional distance his job required. But when Sarah Chen collapsed in the back of his town car during what should have been a routine airport run, professional distance became irrelevant. They'd been heading to her private jet when she'd started gasping, clawing at her throat. Marcus had swerved to the shoulder, his EMT training from his younger days flooding back. Severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis. Her EpiPen had rolled under the seat, and her lips were already turning blue. He didn't think. He acted. CPR. Rescue breaths. His lips pressed against hers, forcing oxygen into her failing lungs while his other hand frantically searched for that life-saving injector. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. Repeat. His daughter Emma's face flashed through his mind. She'd been about Sarah's age, mid-20s, when she'd needed him most. He couldn't fail again. The EpiPen finally appeared, wedged against the floor mat. He administered it with shaking hands, continuing the rescue breaths until her eyes fluttered open. She coughed, gasped, and lived. What Marcus didn't know was that a paparazzo had captured everything. By the time Sarah was released from the hospital 3 hours later, the photos were everywhere. Billionaire Heiress locked in passionate kiss with mystery man, screamed the headlines, showing Marcus bent over Sarah in what looked like an intimate embrace rather than the desperate medical intervention it had been. Marcus's phone exploded with calls. His supervisor, reporters, his mother. Everyone wanted to know about his relationship with Sarah Chen, the youngest daughter of tech titan Richard Chen, a woman whose net worth exceeded the GDP of small nations. He ignored them all. He had a more pressing concern. His 8-year-old daughter Lily had a parent-teacher conference in the morning, and he'd already missed 2 because of night shifts. Being a single dad meant every moment counted. His ex-wife had left when Lily was 2, and Marcus had built their small life on consistency and presence, things money couldn't manufacture. The knock on his apartment door came at 7 the next evening. Marcus opened it to find Sarah Chen standing in his hallway, looking remarkably different from the woman who'd nearly died in his backseat. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her famous face makeup-free and surprisingly vulnerable. "I needed to thank you," she said quietly. "You saved my life." "Just doing what anyone would do," Marcus replied, though they both knew that wasn't true. Most people would have panicked. "Can I come in?" Against his better judgment, he stepped aside. Lily was at his mother's for the night, so the apartment felt emptier than usual. Sarah's eyes traveled over the modest space, the second-hand furniture, the crayon drawings magneted to the refrigerator, the stack of unpaid medical bills partially hidden under a magazine. "Those headlines," she began. "I'm sorry. My lawyers are working on retractions." "Doesn't matter. I don't live in that world." "No," she agreed, settling onto his worn couch. "You live in the real one." Over the next hour, Sarah explained what Marcus couldn't have known. She'd been fleeing to New York to escape a board meeting where her father planned to announce her engagement to Brandon Whitmore, heir to a pharmaceutical empire. A merger marriage. Strategic. Loveless. She'd developed the allergy during a business dinner with Brandon the week before. Shellfish, they'd determined, but she'd been too distracted to properly replace her expired EpiPen. "I was running away," she admitted. "And then you fought for my life like it mattered." "It does matter," Marcus said simply. The genuineness in his voice made Sarah's carefully constructed walls crack. She found herself talking about her real dreams, not running her father's company, but starting a foundation for underprivileged children. About feeling trapped by expectations and wealth. About envying the authenticity she saw in the photos of Marcus and his daughter the tabloids had unearthed, blurry shots of them at the park, at her school, living a life Sarah had never known. "You want to know what real looks like?" Marcus asked, pulling out his phone. He showed her videos, Lily's school play where she forgot her lines but kept going anyway. Birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese because that's what Lily chose. The two of them making pancakes that turned out terribly but tasted perfect anyway. Sarah watched with tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to have that. Sure you do, Marcus said gently. You just have to choose it. When the scandal exploded further, Brandon Whitmore claimed Marcus had deliberately seduced Sarah for money. Marcus refused to respond publicly. But Sarah did. She held a press conference, EpiPen and medical records in hand, explaining exactly what had happened. Then she made an announcement that shocked everyone. She was stepping away from Chen Industries to pursue her own path. She was breaking her engagement. She was choosing authenticity over obligation. Her father was furious. The board was in chaos. But Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. Marcus didn't hear from her for 3 weeks. He assumed she'd moved on, returned to her world of galas and boardrooms. He focused on what mattered: Lily's science project, his driving shifts, the small joys of their life together. Then Sarah showed up at Lily's school, volunteering for the reading program she'd established there with a grant from her newly founded Give Forward Foundation. She'd researched schools in underserved communities, and Lily's school was her first recipient. She didn't tell Marcus beforehand. She simply appeared, reading books to second graders, including his daughter. When Lily came home gushing about the really nice lady who read his stories, Marcus knew. He found Sarah in the school parking lot. You didn't have to do this, he said. Yes, I did. You showed me what matters. I wanted to honor that. By throwing away your life. By building a real one. She smiled. You saved my life twice, Marcus. Once with CPR. Once by reminding me that living means more than existing. They didn't fall into each other's arms like a movie. Instead, they talked. About what she was building. About Lily. About the complications of their different worlds. Sarah met Lily properly over pizza, not at a fancy restaurant, but at their favorite local place. She sat on their couch and played board games. She was terrible at Uno and gracious about losing. 6 months later, when reporters asked Sarah if she and Marcus were together, she smiled and said, "We're friends learning to build something honest. Everything else is private." What they built wasn't a fairy tale romance. It was something rarer, a genuine connection forged in crisis and strengthened through choice. Sarah's foundation flourished. Marcus continued driving but took classes toward his nursing degree, and Lily gained someone who showed up, not with money or grand gestures, but with consistency and care. The kiss that started everything wasn't about passion. It was about one human being refusing to let another human being die. But what came after, that was about two people choosing authenticity, vulnerability, and connection in a world that often values none of those things. It was about understanding that real wealth isn't measured in billions, but in moments. Reading bedtime stories, making pancakes, showing up. And sometimes, the most extraordinary thing you can do is simply be there when someone needs breath, in whatever form that takes.